So, hello everyone. I'm really happy to welcome you in this nanoTalks, this March nanoTalks. So tonight I will begin with a brief introduction of nanoTalks and REACH. Then I will let the two speakers to their presentation, and you can ask your question on Slido. There is a code on the bottom of your screen. And after the two presentations, we will have the Q&A sessions, and the speakers will answer your questions. So nanoTalk are intending to give the opportunity to speakers to practice giving a talk and for the audience to learn more about a specific topic. And the nanoTalks are organized by REACH. REACH is a Swiss-based organization. This is a think tank, and the aim is to create a dialogue between scientists and our society. So to do so, they have 4 formats. The first is blog, so they write blog articles on current topics. They also have a podcast, Weiter Wissen, and they organize public events like this one and some others. And they do policy recommendation with the Frank project. So if you're interested by this project, you can sign up the SIMPAC program like I did, and you will have the opportunity to organize events like this with the help of a coach. In my case, it was Noémie Frézel. And you can also attend workshop and be part of the network, or you can also join our newsletter. And if you want more information, you can check our website. The link is on the slide. So just to remember, this is the code that where you can write your question during the presentation, but they will be answered at the end. And tonight we will talk about marine biology. So in the first part, we will learn about a new technology for research in the field, and in the second part, we will learn about sharks and dismantle the cliché of man-eater. So I will present our first speaker. So Charlotte Bellot is the executive director for the Swiss Cetacean Society and also a scientific collaborator for the University of Neuchâtel. She finished her master's thesis in 2018, and this was humpback whale, and she used the technologies that she will talk about later during her talk. And she shares her passion for marine biology by doing cetology courses and also lecture like this one. So it's your turn, Charlotte.
Thank you, Diana. So I'm going to share my screen, just a few seconds. Is that okay? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, sorry. So I'm really happy to be here tonight, and that's a really great opportunity. And I thank the two person that just took part of it and invited me. So I'm gonna explain quickly, as quick as possible, a revolutionary tool that we are using now in marine biology, which are drones. and I had the pleasure to use it for my own research during my master thesis. So I'm going to be as quick as I can and give you an overall idea of the thing and why it is really good and important to think about changing our way to study them in the field. So first, I'm going to quickly summarize and give you an idea of what we are doing on the field, what do we want, the kind of data we want, and also the limitations that we encountered because of the methods. Then I'm going to show you how drones are really helpful in marine science. I just took 5 points that, according to me, are really advantages of the use of drones in marine science. And I will just make a last slide on a take-home message, as you can just keep it as like the main idea of the presentation today. So when we are studying species, we want different kind of data depending on the purpose of your research. So first of all, you can be interested in population trends or population dynamic. And for that, so far we are using, and we are still using, camera to do photo identification of the animals, so we can get information on coloration pattern, we can discriminate the different individuals in the field, and it gives a lot of information about the number of individuals in the region, or if they have like scars, or if they had accident or anything. So it's quite useful and it's really easy to use. So it's still ongoing, of course. Then some scientists, myself, for example, are interested in morphometric data. So I'm personally working now on a paper on the growth pattern on humpback whales. So how the environment and how to, all that is interfering with their growing. So until now, we were using mainly the data from dead bodies, so stranded animals, and also a bit from the photo identification, because sometimes we were able to extract some measurements of the body, but it was quite limited because we only had small body parts from the surface or dead bodies, which is something we don't choose. We just had to take what we've got. Some other scientists are really interested in behavioral data, so how the species is, the reproductive behavior or the nursing behavior, any behavior that you can see in the field. So for that, the only thing we can do in marine science is observe the animal from the boat, or maybe if you get lucky from underwater when you dive, but it's really limited for obvious reason. You cannot stay underwater forever, and from the surface you only have when the animals are at the surface breathing. So it's really limited in terms of time. We also have the tag that we are putting on the back of the whales. That gives us information about the swim speed or the time during the day or the night they are swimming, if they are swimming fast or if they are resting. So we can just extract some information, but it's again quite limited in terms of interpretation. Some other scientists are interested in acoustic data to study the communication of the species, which are really known to communicate a lot. So for that, we are using hydrophones, which is a really useful tool and easy to use to extract data and then to analyze and get some results. And at the end, we have the people that are working on biological samples that are trying to get information on the health of the individual, for example, the hormones, the bacteria, the viruses, or again, the DNA of the animals, and all the genetic information that we can have. So for that, we are still using biopsies, which is the fact to take a piece of skin from an arrow. So the limitation of such methods are, first, we are like a lot constrained by the time. As I said, we only have the time where they are at the surface, or if we see them underwater, which is really, really difficult to get results in terms of research. We also have a lot of information missing or incomplete because of, again, the same reason. So it's complicated to drive an entire study with missing data or incomplete data. I realized during my fieldwork that we spend a huge amount of time on the boat to try to get one sample on one individual. And compared to the research itself, the efficiency of the research, it's huge, the time we are spending on the boat. So it's not that efficient. And the methods, the one I just presented, are really, most of the time, really invasive and dangerous for both the animals and us. And I will show you some video clip, and maybe you will have an idea of what I'm saying now, the risks that we are taking as scientists, but also for the animals that can be hurt during the research collection, the data collection, sorry. So now I'm just going with the 5 advantages that I found on the drone, on the use of drone. So first, they are really economical. Compared to other methods, we just have to buy the equipment, a drone, some batteries, and all the equipment. You have to get a laptop, some software, and that's it. You go, you film, you get your images, and you analyze them on the laptop. It's really simple in that way. Then they are really efficient. I just realized it when we were doing the fieldwork. I was using the drones, and another girl was using biopsy samples. Was trying to collect some biopsy samples, and I got something like between 40 and 50 samples in 6 weeks, and she got, which is huge in marine science, and she got only 21, I think, with the same days and the same research effort. So it's just to compare, we have twice the number using the drones in terms of sample size. Then, in addition to that, you also have a lot more of quality and information at once, because if you see on the video clip, you can see all the body at once. You can see all the information. If you get lucky, you can even see the gender of the whale. You can see the coloration pattern. So it's really, really good in terms of, it's really complete. You can also film some behavior, like, for example, feeding behavior on that small video clip. And you can also see the movements, how they interact with each other, how they feed, how they chase the prey. Everything is on the movie. You just have to be above and film for like a few minutes, sorry. Third, they are really non-invasive. And I can give you references if you ask for them. There are studies that I've shown that from the water, the whales do not hear the drone. So in terms of sound, they don't hear anything unless they are at the surface, maybe. But the second point is that for the whales and the dolphins, they have absolutely nothing to fear, because there is no threat from the sky for this species. So it's okay for them. They are really curious. Sometimes they turn back, they just slide and they just have a look at the drone, but they do not react at all. So we know that for them it's nothing compared to a boat that is coming right next to them. So just a small video clip to show you. So this study showed that they were able to get some blood sample, which give them DNA, viruses, bacteria information. And as you can see on the video clip, the whale do not react at all. So it's really non-invasive. And it's really good to get some information on the natural behavior of the individual. The fourth point is that, to me, I just realized again that they have a lot of future potential. Every year we have new drones new equipment, and we can go further in terms of improvement in the data quality, data to complete the data, to complete the collection, and that's really cool. For example, this study in 2016 is one of the first on humpback whale, and as you can see, they were taken morphometric data on the surface area of the individual in 2D, and only a few years later, they were already improving the measurements by doing 3D measures of the body volume and all. So it's just to show you that it is going really quick and you are improving a lot. Some other studies are using already infrared imagery to get something, some information about body temperature. We can make hypotheses about the stress of the animal, what they endure, how they react, how they breathe, and all. So it's really cool, and we don't know where we will stop because we always go further because of the new technology. And finally, the drones, and it's maybe one of the main reasons why we should use it. It enhanced a lot the safety of both the scientists and the whale, because I will show you a small video clip where you see that we are putting a tag. So the tag is the small robot that goes on the back of the whale. And as you can see on the video clip, we have to be really close to the whale, like 1 or 2 meters away, which is quite dangerous for both of the whale and the scientist, which is stressful for the animals also, and you can hurt the whale. So this is the method we are using so far. And because of the drone, you can just fly the drone, stay away with the boat. You can also just stop the boat and film the behavior that you want to extract. So it's really safe for everyone, which is a really good reason to use it. And I will just quickly finish with the limitation that I think are with the drone. First, you have to get a pilot license, which is obvious because you cannot fly a drone like that. So you have to be able to drive it correctly, especially when you want to drive it above a whale, because if you don't do it correctly, you can hurt the animal. So this is something you have to know before. And then, and this is maybe the main problem of the method, is that you have a lot of regulation around the world. And some countries do not allow to fly drones because they fear the spying conspiracy with the drones. So it's complicated with some of them. So there are some limitations, but it's still quite okay compared to the others. So just the take-home message, and I will just finish with that. Drones are really good because first, they are really economical, they are efficient, non-invasive. They have a lot of future potential, even maybe something we don't know yet, and they are really safe for everyone. So we should all use it, according to me. I hope you think the same now, and I will just thank you all for your attention. I hope everything was clear, and I'll let you ask questions if you have some. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. So yeah, just a quickly reminder, if you have questions, you can ask them on Slido, and they will be answered at the end. And also you can vote for a question if you think it's interesting. So let's have our second presentation. So our speaker is Roger Bischof. He's a founding member of SHARKPROJECT Switzerland. SHARKPROJECT is an organization with one ultimate goal, intact shark population worldwide. So for that, they are to be achieved. This is to be achieved by protection, education, and cooperation. And Roger is also a co-lead of a team of speakers who go to school to educate children about sharks and the marine ecosystem. He's also an active diver who had the pleasure to dive with many different shark species. So I'll let you begin.
Thank you, Tiana. I'm going to share my screen. So I hope you can see my screen. First of all, good evening to the audience. It's a pleasure to speak this evening about my favorite topic, which are sharks. When we talk about sharks, we noticed that only a few people had the chance to see sharks in the natural habitat. But most people have an opinion about sharks, mostly a negative one. Sharks are known as big, evil creatures, man-eaters. The more sharks die, the safer it is to swim in the oceans, and so on. Fortunately, this view changed a bit in the last 1 or 2 decades, and even media reports of accidents are more neutralish nowadays. But nevertheless, if you see the news about the sharks accident, you get a negative stance. And we at the Shark Project noticed very early that we cannot protect sharks and help sharks, raise money for protecting sharks if people have so much fear. So first, we have to educate people about sharks, their behavior, their role in the marine ecosystem. And yeah, this is still one of the core pillars of Shark Project. So yeah, when we talk about sharks, people think they know a lot about sharks. As I mentioned before, they are big, have very big and sharp teeth, try to catch and eat everything in front of their snout. But in fact, we do not know that much about sharks. Only a few species of sharks have been studied in detail. For example, yeah, you hear figures like a shark can smell a drop of blood in a bath tube, or a shark loses 40,000 feet during their lifetime. Yeah, that might be true, but it's true for one specific species and not for all the sharks. So, for example, the zebra shark here on the top right, or the angel shark on the lower right side, we don't know how they smell or how much teeth they lose, and so on. So sharks are very heterogeneous. The length is about from 10 centimeters up to 14 meters, but most sharks are much smaller than humans. Only a few are bigger. There are some species who live in the benthic area, others in the pelagic zones. Some live in the tropical coral sea, others in the Arctic oceans. They also live in the deep sea, up to about 3,000 meters in depth. Some even live in brackish water or even sweet water, like the bull shark or the Ganges shark. So that's why we say there is no such thing as the shark. You may know it for this species, but it's not valid for the others. So what is a shark? A shark, of course, is a fish, but it's not a bone fish, it's a cartilaginous fish. Same like rays and chimeras. Obviously, they have no bones. The skeleton is made out of cartilage. And yeah, it's not the only attribute which differentiates sharks from bonefish. For example, sharks don't have a swim bladder, which means they need to swim all the time, otherwise they sink to the ground. They also don't have scales. They have tentacles all over their body, from the snout to the caudal fin. These tentacles, in fact, are nothing else than teeth all over their body. So when you pet a shark, which you shouldn't do, hopefully, do it from head to tail. Otherwise, you might graze your skin. Yeah, I said sharks are a big group. We have more than 500 species classified in about 38 families and 8 orders. This is just a brief overview how we can simply distinguish them by anatomical differences. So first, we start to count gill slits. Usually sharks has only 5 gill slits, but there is one order which has 6 and even 7 gill slits. Then we see, is there an anal fin or not? Is the body ray-like or not? Is the snout long or short? And so on. Really easy. Usually the sharks, we know if one thinks about the shark, it's the 2 bottom orders, the mackerel sharks and the ground sharks. So in these 2 orders, you find, also in the mackerel sharks, you find the great white shark, the salmon shark, you find mackerels, you find the thresher shark. Whereas on the other order of ground sharks, you find the tiger sharks, oceanic white tips, cat sharks, and yeah, these kind of species. Here to differentiate them is a bit more tricky because you have to see if there is a nictating eyelid. This nictating eyelid came into action only if the shark bites. This is because to protect the eyes, and usually if you catch prey, it's wriggling, it's fighting, and so that the eye is directly above the mouth, so it protects the eye. The mackerel sharks don't have such an eyelid, but they have a slight other way to protect their eye. They just turn the whole eyeball inside the head, which look a bit scary and yeah, uncommon. So as I said, it's easy to differentiate the sharks. If you go swimming and you see one, just pick up this chart and you know in which order you have to put in this shark. But maybe if you see a shark in the water, you have other priorities. No, I don't mean get panicked and swim away. No, I want to highlight it's really a privilege to swim with a shark. So just stay calm and enjoy. Usually a shark encounter lasts only a few seconds and then it's gone. So why are sharks that important? Sharks are top predators, or they are at least on a high level of the food chain. Therefore, sharks act like a kind of a health police, we say. They prefer to catch old or sick or injured fish or prey, just because it's most easy to catch and it needs the least energy to catch them. So therefore, they control the population of their prey animals. And this goes down through the whole food chain until zooplankton and phytoplankton. So it's all linked together. But the food chain is not that simple. It's not just A eats B and B eats C and so on. It's much more complicated. So we talk about the food web, not the food chain, and especially in the ocean, these interactions and dependencies are quite complicated and much more complicated than on dry land. There is a study from 2005 where scientists simulated a coral reef virtually in the computer. They programmed more than 250 species and with more than 3,300 interactions. They wanted to know what happens when we remove the sharks. So they removed the sharks virtually, and they were very surprised. They saw that this reef will die within 1 year. And we have to keep in mind that the ocean produces more than 50% of the oxygen. So we owe every second breath to the ocean. So often people ask, yeah, Shark Project Switzerland, what do you do with sharks in Switzerland? There are no sharks. But yes, there are no sharks, but we depend all on well-balanced marine ecosystem and healthy oceans. Otherwise, we won't survive. This brings me a step back to the some biology, the reproduction. As sharks have such an important role to stabilize the marine ecosystem by controlling populations of prey animals, there's the question, who control the sharks? As I said, they are not every shark is a top predator. But anyhow, they need to control themselves. So they have a special strategy of reproduction. So they have a very late sexual maturity. And here we talk about 25 years. Very long pregnancies, can be 2 years, even more. And they have only a few offspring, 2 to 12 pups. So the growth rate is very low. The figures I mentioned, by the way, is true for the spiny dogfish. So they have no chance to reproduce themselves in the same speed they are fished away. Here in the picture, you can see an egg of cat shark. You can clearly see on the lower left side the egg yolk, right next to it the pup with their umbilical cord. But only 30% of sharks lay eggs. Others are ovoviviparous or viviparous. When I talk to reproduction, the figures are, surprising maybe, but I want to share an example of a Greenland shark. Greenland sharks live in the Arctic oceans and they become very, very old. So there is also a study where scientists catch the shark and they estimated an age of around 390 years. And with an error rate of plus minus 120 years. So born between 1504 and 1744. So this shark might even have known Christopher Columbus. And this is really impressive, I think. And these Greenland sharks, we think they have maturity at about an age of 150 years and pregnancy of about 8 to 18 years. So time really means nothing to them. And with that, I want to give you these figures. You see here that every year about 63 to 273 million sharks are killed by humans. Huge numbers with very huge range as well. It's very hard to estimate the real numbers. And if it's hard to understand this number, at these 15 minutes I talk here, you can easily calculate about 7,500 sharks are killed worldwide, mainly because of their fins, also their oil, which is called squalene, which is often used in cosmetics and medicine. Cartilage also can be found in medicine, or simply by bycatch. So industrial fisheries often work with long lines up to 200 kilometers in length. They can even reach deep sea and have hooks and bait every 50 meters. So basically, shark fin soup is very popular in mostly Chinese countries. Such a soup costs about $100 US. And this is only to impress guests, for example, a potential client at a business dinner. But we don't like to finger point to East Asia, that's too easy. European countries are #1 of shark fishing. So the problem actually is right in front of our doors. So that's why Shark Project start their work. We support scientific research and other campaigns to protect sharks. We also cooperate, of course, with other NGOs. It's not enough to just save the sharks if we continue to pollute our oceans. And finally, as already said, education is really key, and we can see this in every country. So we educate in schools, at events. We educate dive operators to make safe shark trips for the divers. Okay, with this, I would like to close. Happy to answer the questions, and back to you, Tiana.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So I have some questions. I will begin with you, Charlotte. Are you okay? Okay, so the first question is, how far away can you be from the drone and the whale when you pilot the drones?
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So normally from the land, depending on what you want to do, you can go a few kilometers away from the drone. You can stay away. But at sea, when you want to study the whales, you have to stay at about, I would say, 200 meters to maybe 500 meters, because you have to keep an eye on the whale from the boat to be able to know where you have to go. And also you have to be able to come back, to make the drone come back to the boat. Otherwise it will just go to the sea. So you have to stay quite close, but still without the engine turning and away from the whale. So 500 meters is quite okay for them. They don't react to that. So I don't know if I answered completely, but yeah.
Thank you. And now for you, Roger. Someone asked, how do you study the sharks? Because I quote, like Charlotte Bellot said, some traditional methods are very invasive. So do they use invasive method or not? If you know.
Yeah, this is, of course, also a big topic. So first I have to say, we don't make our own scientific research. I'm also not a scientist, but we support research. And yes, of course, we want to keep it as non-invasive as possible. And we, of course, we don't want to support any research where sharks have to be killed, but sometimes you have to take the shark out to the boat, place a sender or whatever, and put it back into the ocean. But it's, yeah, nobody really likes that, and it's stressful for the animal, and maybe the data is not as accurate as it can be with a natural study in the ocean.
So do you have an example of what we can do, for example, to study them? If you are, I don't know, if you dive or to collect data?
Yeah, when you place sensors or cameras or whatsoever on sharks, it should be as small as possible, which is nowadays much easier as everything shrinks. And yeah, you try to do it underwater with harpoons and place it on the dorsal fin, where sharks have not so much pain or can't even feel it, and doesn't disturb them from swimming. Yeah, I think this is more or less all I can say about this, as I never took place on such scientific research.
Thank you. And now for Charlotte. Are the biopsy still needed, or can you do it? The question is, can you still take biopsy if they are needed, or are they needed?
So the biopsy are still needed, yes, of course, because we need information on pregnancy, or the kind of disease that are in the population. We can help them with that. For example, in Australia, they found pneumonia on whales, so it helps a lot. So we need these biopsies, but because of the if you remember the study in Australia with the drone going above the whale and taking snout sample, they are able to get the information that are quite the same than with biopsy. So we hope that in the future we will be able to get only this kind of information via this drone going above with the petri dish and taking the samples, instead of doing the biopsies like with the traditional way. So I don't know if it was all the question, or it was another part.
Yeah, I think it's answered. Thank you. So now for Roger. So why are European country #1? Maybe for cosmetics, or because we don't eat shark soups in Europe. So
we don't eat shark soup in Europe, but we sell them, and it's very it's for the money. It's the margins are very high, and this is basically it. And we catch them not only in Europe, because Europe is, also European waters, let's say, from North Sea to the Mediterranean is almost empty. So we go to the Atlantic, North Atlantic, South Atlantic, even Pacific Oceans, and European fleets fish everywhere. And there are some specialties of shark meat in Europe. For example, if you go to Germany, you might have heard of Schillerlocken. This is belly meat from the dogfish. It doesn't look like a shark, and as it's not described, it's not named as a shark, people even don't know what they eat. Sometimes they think it's an eel or something like this. And the other thing, squalene, the oil out of the liver, and also cartilage powder. is really important. And if you go to your bathroom and check your medicines and cosmetica, the chance is really high that you have some shark ingredients there.
Okay, thank you. And also another for you. So thanks a lot for the interesting presentation. Is the cultural landscape about fin soup changing? Are young people maybe less prone to consume it?
Yes, it changed a bit, yes. I don't have any exact numbers, but young people are not that interested anymore in it. And at ancient times, shark fin soup are a special meal for emperors only. And this is why it's very prestigious, and you can impress your client. But in recent years, the Chinese government, even for bait, spend shark fin soup during official events, and other companies don't do this anymore as well. And hotel chains, restaurants, and airlines, don't do it anymore. And this gives some hope that this will change, but the change is slow.
Thank you. Maybe for you, Charlotte, can you talk about your thesis? What did you do with the drone? What aspect did you use for them to collect data? Maybe if you.
During my master thesis, I had a project on body condition of the whales. So actually, we were directly following up the study I put on the left, the one from 2016, doing the morphometric data in 2D. So we were just following up this one, and I had to get the measurements of the width of the whale and the length, and to get some body measurements. And the idea was mainly for me to see if there were differences in body condition depending on the period, like the period during the year, when they are feeding, when they aren't feeding, and to see if they were gaining weight, like growing, like in terms of width, if they were like more thin or more thick. I don't know if we can say that for an individual, but I was trying to see if at the beginning of the feeding season they were like thinner than after a few months feeding in the feeding area. And we found it actually that they were growing a lot, like they were getting fat. And that was the idea actually. So we did the exact reverse compared to the study in Australia. They were showing that during the reproductive season, when they are lactating, when they are nursing the babies, the females were getting really thinner. They were losing fat. So we showed the reverse when they are feeding. So it was quite cool, and it worked. And we published something. There is a paper out. So it's not exactly on that subject. We changed a bit with other scientists. So if people are interested, they can put my name and drones and humpback whales, and they might find it. It was in 2020 or something like that. So yeah. That's it.
Okay, and another question for you. So where are the whales in the food chain? Does helping whale help the ocean?
So where are the whales located in the food chain, in their ecosystem? So the whales, they are really big, but they are not at the top of the chain. They are actually, I think they are primary consumers, because they are feeding from the zooplankton, so they are quite at the bottom actually. So yeah, they are really big, but they are not at the top. So sometimes we are surprised to see that, but they feed from zooplankton. So yeah, it's just like maybe a rabbit in the terrestrial ecosystem, to try to compare.
So when we, do you know if they had the same research that Roger talked about when they remove whales? So how important are they in the food chain, or do they are important for the ocean? Do you know that? Or
yes, they are really important, not only because of the food itself, but because they migrate. So they move stuff from the south to the north, like, some parasites, some I just forgot what I wanted to tell you about that, but they are migrating, and they are really important for that, because they move stuff really important for different ecosystems. And also when they die, they go down at sea, on the floor, and they feed with the body. There are like lots of ecosystems from the floor that can feed for weeks. So yes, they are really important. So if you remove them, you will just imbalance a lot of ecosystems, not only at the top of at the surface, but also on the floor, the sea floor, and in both regions, because for example, with the humpback whales, they are migrating from the pole, the north, to the Caribbean. So the Caribbean, sorry, in French. I'm French, you know now. So they are moving a lot. So they are really important for different ecosystems in that way.
Thank you. And now for you, Roger. So why coral dies when you remove the shark? Are these models verified in real conditions? Do you understand?
Yes, because as I said, sharks are at the top of the food chain, and they are very slow reproducing themselves. But the other fish have other reproduction rates, and if you remove the sharks, the prey fish the population of the prey fish will grow very rapidly. They need more food and eat their prey and so on. So at the end, it's nothing left. It's the same when you remove lions from the Serengeti, or to make a simple example. All zebras and other grass eaters the population of them will grow very fast, and they eat all the grass away, and what remains is a desert. And this is the same at coral reefs. And about the second part of the question, is it verified in the nature? Yeah, not quite the same way than in the study, but yeah, you can see this. So that you have many places on the planet where you don't see the same amount of sharks than maybe 20 or 40 years ago or whatever, and you see it also that the reefs don't look good. Maybe also for another reasons, for pollution and too warm oceans and whatsoever. So yeah, I think I cannot answer this question more precisely than this, but you have to take much other factors into account, of course.
Okay, thank you. Does Europe has laws for conservation of sharks and whales? So you can both answer. Maybe Charlotte begin, or oh no, Roger, you have your.
I'm not sure if I get the question correctly.
Yeah, me too. Sorry.
Sorry. So, what are the the laws for conservation of sharks and whale in Europe. What do we have? You know,
the laws.
The I can say it French. Les lois, les réglementations.
Oh, the regulations.
Yes, thank you.
To help the species in Europe.
Yes.
I mean, I can start if you want, Roger.
Yes, go for it.
I mean, for whales, it's quite okay in Europe because we still have some issues, but you have regulation they are not hunted anymore, or I mean, not that much in Europe. So that's not a real problem, but we have other issues with the cetaceans, is the whale watching and swim dolphin. Dolphin swim, it's the other way around, but we have this issue. So the regulations we have so far is like some labels that, you know, some company has the labels because they are doing it responsibly and they take care of what they are doing around the whales. So yeah, that's the only thing I can see in Europe mainly, and just raise the the conscience of the people around, like trying to make them know, to make them aware about the issues we have and why we have to be careful around them. And but in Europe it's quite okay for the whales actually.
Yeah, not so for the sharks. As I said, it's they are not really protected. Each country may have different rules. Some installed some protection areas on their coasts, some not. But it's not really forbidden to catch sharks in Europe. Which is forbidden is the great white shark, basking shark, and the whale shark. This is the only 3 species which you're not allowed to hunt. But what does it mean you're not allowed to hunt? Fisheries will do it anyway. Because especially when you go for the fins, it's very hard to say afterwards. You find a boat full of shark fins. It's hard to say from which species they are. You can do it, you can make a DNA analysis and so on, but this is very time consuming and costly. So usually, yeah, countries don't do this.
Charlotte, do you have a question?
Not a question. I just thought about something else during the time he was explaining. We have actually a huge problem in Europe. It's the collisions. That's one of the main mortality reason of the whales, especially in Mediterranean Sea. And that's what we are doing with the SCS from Lausanne. We are trying to conduct studies on we are making maps about like where they are going to feed or to reproduce. And with that, we are trying to put it together with the ferries and the boats road to be able to maybe change, the speed of the boat or the just the road itself. So that's one of the main issue that we have right now and that we are trying to do in at least for the Mediterranean Sea. But I know it's a huge problem in maybe all around the world. So yeah, I just wanted to add this detail.
Okay, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. I just have a last comment that someone writes. So there is an amazing Swiss filmmaker that stands up for shark conservation. If you want to see some nice video, check him out. His name is Bimida Kid. So yeah. And so I just want to thank the both speaker a lot. It was really, really nice. And just to have a quickly reminder, we have our next nanoTalks on April 28th. And if you want, you can follow us on the social media or check our website. So really a big thank you and have a nice evening.
Thank you very much to invited us. I mean, me at least. But thank you very much again. It was really nice to do it. So yeah, have a nice evening too.
From me as well. Thanks a lot for participating in this talk and for the audience with all those interesting questions. Thank you.